Hello and welcome to the Bulba Plays Lone Wolf Saga as part of Lone Wolf Wednesday. I got that, Vama. I was saying you weren't relatively excited for Robotech. But anyway, we are up to Book 16, The Legacy of Vashna. Let's go. You are Grand Master Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Lords of Summerland, sole survivor of the massacre that wiped out the First Order of your elite warrior caste. The year is MS 5077. 27 years have passed since your brave kinsmen perished at the hands of the Dark Lords of Helgadad. These champions of evil were sent forth by Naga, King of Darkness, to destroy the fertile world of Magnamund. They themselves have since been destroyed. You vowed to avenge the murder of the Kai, and you kept your pledge. It was you who brought about their downfall, when, alone, you infiltrated their foul domain, the Darklands, and caused the destruction of their leader, Archlord Gnag, and the seat of his power, that was the infernal city of Helgadad. In the wake of their destruction, chaos befell the Darkland armies, who, until then, had been poised to conquer all of Magnamund. Some factions, which were part of this huge army, most notably the barbaric Dracarim, began to fight with the others for control. This disorder quickly escalated into all-out civil war, which allowed the freeland armies of Magnamund time in which to recover and launch counter-offensive. Skillfully, with a single L, their commanders exploited the chaos and secured a swift and total victory over an enemy far superior in numbers. For 7 years now, peace has reigned in Summerland. Under your direction, the once ruined monastery of the Kai has been rebuilt and restored to its former glory, and the task of teaching the Second Order of Kai warriors the skills and proud traditions of your ancestors is well underway. The new generation of Kai recruits, all of whom were born during the era of war against the Dark Lords, possess latent Kai skills and show exceptional promise. These skills will be nurtured and honed to perfection during the time at the monastery, so they may teach and inspire future generations, thereby ensuring the continued security of your homeland in future years. They've made that bit a bit shorter than I remember from the last couple of times reading it. Your attainment of the rank of Kai Grand Master brought with it great rewards. Some, such as the restoration of the Kai and the undying gratitude of your fellow Summerlending, could have been anticipated. Yet there are also rewards which could not have been foreseen. The discovery that within you lay the potential to develop Kai disciplines beyond those of a Magna Kai, which until now were thought to be the ultimate that a Kai master could aspire to, was truly a revelation. Your discovery has inspired you to set out upon a new and previously unknown path in search of the wisdom and power that no Kai Lord before has ever possessed. In the name of your creator, the god Kai, and for the greater glory of Summerland and the goddess Ashir, you vowed to reach the very pinnacle of perfection to attain all of the Grand Master disciplines and become the first Kai Supreme Master. With diligence and determination, you set about... Oh no, here's the paragraph that I thought they'd cut from before. You set about to restore the Kai Monastery and organize the training of the Second Order recruits. Your efforts were rewarded, and within the space of 2 short years, the first raw recruits have graduated to become a cadre of gifted Kai masters, who in turn were able to commence the teaching of their skills to subsequent intakes of novices. Readily, the masters rose to their newfound responsibilities, leaving you free to devote more of your time to the pursuit and perfection of the Grand Master disciplines. During this period, you also received expert tutelage in the ways of magic from 2 of your most trusted friends and advisors, Guildmaster Bane, leader of the Brotherhood of the Crystal Star, and Lord Ramoa, speaker for the High Council of the Elder Mages of Durasi. In the deepest subterranean level of the monastery, 100 feet below the Tower of the Sun, you ordered the excavation and construction of a special vault. In this magnificent chamber, wrought of granite and gold, you placed the 7 lore stones of Nixator, the gems of Kai power, which you had discovered during your quest for the Magna Kai. It was here, bathed in the golden light of those radiant gems, that you spent countless hours in pursuit of perfection, sometimes alone, sometimes in the company of your 2 able advisors, Bane and Ramoa. You worked hard to develop your innate Grand Master disciplines and grasped the fundamental secrets of left-handed and Old Kingdom magics. During this time, you noticed many remarkable changes taking place within your body. You became physically and mentally stronger, your primary senses sharpened beyond all that you had experienced before, and perhaps most remarkably, your body began to age at a much slower rate. Now, for every 5 years that elapse, you age but one. At this time, many changes were occurring beyond the borders of Summerland. In the regions to the northeast of Magador and the Macken Gorge, the elder mages of Desi and the herb wardens of Bhutar were working together in an effort to restore the dusty volcanic wasteland to its former fertile state. It was a tentative step towards the reclamation of the Dark Lands. However, the progress was slow, and both parties were resigned to the fact that their efforts to undo the damage caused by the Dark Lords would take centuries to complete. Hiccup. Following the destruction of the Dark Lords of Helgadad, the Giaks, the most numerous of Gnag's troops, fled into the Darklands and sought refuge in the giant city fortresses of Nadgazad, Arnak, Gornen, Akagazd, and Kag. Within each of these hellish strongholds, fierce fighting broke out as remnants of the Zaghash, the Lesser Dark Lords, and the Nadziranim, the evil practitioners of right-handed magic, who once aided individual Dark Lord masters, fought for control. It is widely believed that by the time the Elder Mages and the Herb Wardens reached the walls of these strongholds, reach the walls of these strongholds, they will encounter no resistance, and that the occupants will have long since brought about their own extinction. Elsewhere, throughout northern Magnamond, peace reigns victorious, and the peoples of the free kingdoms rejoice in the knowledge that the age of the Dark Lords has finally come to an end. Readily, men have exchanged swords and hoes and their shields for plowshares. And now the only marching they do is along the ruts of their freshly furrowed fields, which is lovely to say. Few are the watchful eyes that scan the distant horizon in fear of what might appear, although there are still those who maintain their vigilance. For the agents of Nar come in many guises, and there are those in Magnamond who wait quietly in the shadows for the chance to do his evil bidding. Already, your newfound skills have been tested against Nar's agents, and you have, on such occasions, acquitted yourself admirably. But your continuing victories against his minions have enraged the Dark God, and rarely has his lust for vengeance been greater than it is at present. Recently, Lord Ramoa has counselled you to be extra vigilant, for he fears that Nar is getting ready to strike at Summerland anew. The Elder Mages have received warnings from President Cadharian of Magador that something strange is taking place in the north of his country. In the mountainous territory which borders the Macken Gorge, freak storms and unseasonal weather have swept the remote region, and the night skies over Lake Vaunderol have, for several weeks, been illuminated by eerie, inexplicable lights. Lord Ramoa fears that Nar is plotting to revive Vashna, the greatest of the Dark Lords, whose spirit is trapped deep within the fathomless reaches of the Macken Gorge. It has remained there in uneasy entombment since the days of the Dark Lord was defeated. Ever since the day the Dark Lord was defeated in battle by King Olnar I of Summerland. Vashna's body, along with those of his loathsome troops, was hurled into the abyss, hopefully never to be seen again. Legend has it the Dark Lord's body was destroyed, but his spirit lives on. He is said to be awaiting the day that he will be made to rise again at the head of a vast army of undead warriors, to set loose a wreckage of his revenge upon Summerland and the House of Olnar. If it is Nar's intention to resurrect Vashna and his army from the depths of the Macken Gorge, says an anxious Ramoa, as you and he discuss the situation in a secure privacy of your vault beneath the monastery, then no free realm upon the face of Magnamond would be safe. It has always been Summerlin's misfortune that Ulnar's victory over Varshna was not total. I have feared that the legacy of the Macken Gorge would one day awaken and confront us, and I fear that unless we act swiftly, the day is about to dawn. For several hours, you and your learned advisors deliberated what could be done to prevent such a catastrophe. You decide that the exact nature of the threat had first to be determined if you were to combat it effectively. You were confident that your Grand Master disciplines would enable you to unravel the mystery quickly. And so you volunteered to journey to North Magador to investigate the strange incidents firsthand. After all, there could be a perfectly innocent explanation for them. Let us hope that this is so, Grand Master, said Lord Ramoa, earnestly. But nevertheless, do not forget what could confront you there. I'll pray to Kai and Ashir to watch over and guide you on your journey ahead, Lone Wolf, and bring you home, swiftly, safely, and victoriously. Okay, we get a new skill. I kind of want invisibility, or the super hiding. And we get to add another weapon to our Grand Mastery. Hammer sounds good. Although it doesn't feel like it's saving those that we add. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the things that you can bring with you from before. Anything you're not allowed to bring has been stored in the monastery. I probably don't need a whistle, or a bowl of string, or a bottle of wine, or a bowstring, or an empty bottle, or a silver bowl. Rope is useful. I will accept 2 rope, because sometimes the game steals your items. That would be annoying to be left without a rope. Sword bow. What are these Jadin amulets? Oh yes, those were the things that we found in the city that was being used as a prisoner of war camp. Interesting that I have 2 of them. Well, hopefully they stack. Store some money, because the game's about to roll even more money. Okay, it's saying please leave another special item behind because you might not have enough space. I'll lose one of the amulets of bonus dodging. I understand. Okay, before you set out, you take with you a map of the Macken Gorge and the surrounding territories and a pouch of gold. To find out how much, pick a number from the random number table, add 20. This equals how much is inside. If you've completed previous books, you may add this sum to the total of crowns you already possess, but you can only carry 50 at a time. You can take 4 items from the list on the right. Potion of healing, absolutely. 1 meal. I don't need a 3rd quiver. So I guess more rope and a meal. We've certainly got a lot of rope. Blah, blah, blah. No matter how poorly you roll for combat skill and endurance, you should be able to win if you are wise. The hours leading up to your departure from the monastery are spent in the company of your able advisor, Lord Ramoa. Having discussed the mission at great length, you busy yourself now with the practical preparations of your long journey to Magador. Actually, let's have a look at the map. Okay, so we're over here. And presumably we're coming to this. Ooh, and the map even has a little bit of reclaimed wasteland now. Nice. He gives you a scroll which contains a written invitation from President Kadharian to attend his Senate to discuss trade between Summerland and Magador. It provides cover for you should the need arise to justify your journey. This is a special item, doesn't take up space in your action chart. Also, in the interests of secrecy, you decide it best to discard your formal Kai robes in favour of less conspicuous garments, and you choose instead to wear the simple clothes of a guildsman, woolen breeches, leather tunic and a cloak. Dressed in this way, and aided by your innate sense skills of invisibility, you feel confident you'll be able to travel the road to Helgor, the Magadorian capital, without drawing undue attention to yourself or your purpose. By her horse, the journey to Helgor could be expected to take 5 weeks. Your initial thought had been to send word to your guildmaster friend, Bane, requesting that he allow you to use his magical skyship, the Skyrider. However, on this occasion, you will have to forego the speedy comfort of his wondrous craft, for Bane is using it on his own quest to the distant land of Bahana in southern Magnamund, and he is not expected to return before the year's end. Your second choice was also to prove unsuitable. Having resigned yourself to a long journey on horseback, you sent an order to the monastery stables for your horse Storm to be saddled and made ready. This was a fine Slavarian stallion that had been the gift to you from Elector Manatine of Palmrian, in gratitude for the crucial part you played in the victory over the evil Senna Druids of Ruel. His strength, intelligence, and indomitable spirit have reminded you so much of your old Kai tutor, Stormhawk, that you chose to name the horse Storm in his memory. But, as Ramoa quickly pointed out, such a magnificent horse would attract undue attention, especially if it was ridden by what appeared to be but a humble guildsman. And so, reluctantly, you had the stables prepare you another horse, strong but less exceptional mount called Bracer. The journey to Helgor takes you south to the city-state of Cassiorn, and then west to the Lyrician capital of Veretta, a road that you travelled years ago during your Magna Kai quest. In the main, your ride is peaceful and uneventful. By choice, you keep to yourself and avoid staying too long in any single place. It is not until you reach Vakovar that the uncertain politics of the region give cause for concern. The squalid, lawless city is home to some of the Stornland's most notorious criminals and robber barons. It's common knowledge that travellers who value their wealth and health wisely avoid Vakovar wherever possible. Forewarned by the rumours, you choose not to dwell here and ride safely through the city and press on to Helgor. Yet while within the walls of Vakovar, no less than a dozen separate attempts are made to relieve you of your money pouch and horse. There are no witnesses to these attacks, which is just as well. When you ride out, you leave a score of dead robbers littering the cobblestones. It is early evening when you eventually crest a hill and catch your first disappointing glimpse of Helgor. A damp and unwholesome-looking city ringed by a rampart of mouldering rubble. The remains of a curtain wall which has been destroyed during the war with the Dark Lords. Through the gaps in the rampart, you can see the thick fog that swirls through Helgor's brick streets and crooked, filthy alleys. At first sight, it seems that the Magadorian capital is little more than a beggar city. A vast hodgepodge of slums and hovels. But as you ride nearer, you notice several grand towers pierce the rolling grey mist. The main approach to Helgor is patrolled by presidential guards, heavily armed with crossbows and spears, who are checking everyone attempting to enter by road. Dressed in flamboyant green tunics, scarlet, and black calf hide, which seems far too lavish for the garrison of such a squalid city. When asked your business, you show them the scroll given you by Ramoa. They are impressed by the invitation and insist that an armed escort be provided to help take you directly to the presidential palace. After your experience in Vakovar, you welcome their offer. Despite the overwhelming squalor of Helgor's dingy tenements and streets, you were expecting the President's palace to be an exception. To your disappointment, however, it turns out to be little more than a fortified chateau situated in the centre of the city, atop a hill known as the Vanagrom Knoll. You are welcomed into the palace's Senate Hall by an official called Stepona. Not Epona, Epona. A dour man who looks older than his 30 years. He sees to it that your horse is stabled and that you are given refreshments while you wait your audience with the President. An hour passes before the doors to the Senate Hall swing open, and without a formal announcement, in strides President Kadharian of Magador. If you had visited here before, turn to this. Or if you've never been here, go to this. 30? Yes. A dour old man who looks older than his 30 years. So he's only 30 years old, but he looks far older. Though we accept that 30 is, of course, ancient beyond belief. Positively senile. Immediately you recognize the tall, muscular man who stands before you. He was once known as the Slave Master of Arnak, an agent of the Elder Mages based in the Darklands who 7 years earlier helped you to enter the dread city of Helgadad and bring about the downfall of the Dark Lords. Ah, so that guy who seemed a bit dodgy is now President Kadharian of Magador. Welcome, Grand Master, he says, smiling warmly. It has been a long time and you've come a long way since our last meeting. The President is amused by your expression of surprise and offers an explanation of how he became the leader of this republic. After the fall of Helgadad, the Elder Mages arranged for his safe passage to the Stornlands, where he was granted a commission in the army of Lyris. He distinguished himself in battle, and later, once the remains of the Darkland armies had been vanquished, he returned to his native Magador and led an uprising against King Vanagrom VI, who had long been a puppet of the Dark Lords. The revolt ended with the king dead and the abolition of the monarchy. Magador became a republic, and the Slave Master, whose given name was Kadharian, became its first elected leader. And now to the reasons why I've requested your help, Grand Master, he says, as he pushes open the door to a smaller room, which adjoins the Senate halls. Turn to page 100. You follow the President into the chamber, your footsteps echoing as you walk along the mosaic marble floor. At the far end of the room, a wiry wolfhound lies snoozing in front of a log fire, crackling in an iron grate. The flames illuminate the chamber with a warm glow, casting flickering shadows across countless shelves stacked with thick rolls of parchment and papyrus. All we need is a press-studded leather-backed chair, and this is pretty ideal. At the center, there stands a large table heaped with sand. The sand has been shaped to depict the topography of Magador, its towns, cities, mountains, hills, and rivers. The attention to detail is very impressive. Somewhere here, I fear there is a great evil at work, says Kadharian, pointing to a section of the table which depicts the territory north of Lake Vornderol, an area uncomfortably close to the deep furrow representing the Macken Gorge. 3 moons ago, the lakeside hamlet of Vorn was reportedly destroyed by an unnatural storm, the first of many that have continuously swept the region. I dispatched a troop of my guards to investigate, but they've never returned. Since then, another troop was dispatched, again without a trace. But what makes you think that a plot to resurrect Vashna is afoot? You say, trying not to sound overly skeptical. With all due respect, President, This is a notorious region infested with renegades and brigands. There may be a simpler explanation for the destruction of Vaughan and the disappearance of your troops. Yes, 'tis so, reports Kadharian. At first, I too thought the same, but then I came into the possession of something which makes me believe otherwise. From a leather pouch hanging from his sword belt, he takes an item which is neatly wrapped in a square of patterned silk. Here, Grand Master, he says, offering it to you. I will let you draw your own conclusions. You accept the package and carefully unfold its silken wrapper to reveal an amulet, oblong in shape, strung upon a length of crude twine. It has been carved from coal-black stone and is flecked with grains of metal which sparkle in the firelight. Where was it found, you ask? In the ruins of Vaughan, replies Kadharian. I don't have telegnosis, and I'm not ultra super giga rank, although actually we might be ultra super giga rank because we've done every book. If you do not possess this discipline, or you have yet to reach this, Upon closer examination, you discover that one side of the amulet is covered in a detailed engraving which depicts a sinister scene. It portrays the rising up of a monstrous creature from the depths of a great gorge, flanked on all sides by a horde of skeletal warriors. At once you recognize it to be a portrayal of the Dark Lord Vashna and his minions arising from the depths of the Makan Gorge. Who found the amulet, you ask? One rogue who goes by the name of Smud. A patrol found him in the mountains close by the River Storn a few days after the second troop went missing. When he couldn't give a good reason for being there, they arrested him and brought him back to Helgor for questions. Kadrian's emphasis on the word questions leaves you to doubt that his interrogation involved no small degree of torture. Where is he now? I'd like to question him myself. He's in Helgor. Stays at the Crooked Sage, an inn in the north quarter of the city. I'll send a detachment of palace guards to fetch him for you, but the quarter of Helgor is rife with villains. Word would be sure to get to him, and he'd go to ground. My men would simply never find him. I'm afraid the only way you could speak to him is by going there yourself. Very well, President. Then that is exactly what I will do. Do you mind if I keep this, you ask, motioning to the amulet? I have no objection. I hope it helps you discover what is truly going on. Carefully, you rewrap the talisman and slip it into your pocket. We pick it up and put it in our purse. Record the black amulet as a special item on your action chart. You don't have to discard anything for it if you're already at the maximum. Then, after a meal and a soothingly hot bath, you bid farewell to the President and take your leave of the palace by way of the stables. Night has thickened the blanket of mist which lines the narrow streets and alleys of Helgor. Guided by your Kai instincts, you set off northwards. But soon you have cause to regret not having thought of asking Kadharian for directions to the inn. Helgor is an old city, and its chaotic streets follow no obvious plan. After several wrong turns, you come upon a square where the vanes of a rotting signpost point to 3 exits. Slumped at its base, there sits a dishevelled fat man in a yellowed, streaked beard, who is gulping mouthfuls of cheap ale from a filthy stone pitcher. You attempt to use your pathmanship skill to read the signpost, but come up unsuccessfully. If you wish to leave the square to the north, turn here. If you wish to leave the square to the east, turn here. If you wish to leave the square to the west, turn here. Or if you want to talk to the fat man, talk to the fat man. The drunkard gives you a lopsided grin and wipes his greasy mouth with the back of his hand before replying, for sure I know where the Crooked Sage is. Fine ale to be had if only I had the money to afford it. I could tell you where it is for a small payment. Sure, money is essentially valueless. Let's just take it. The fat drunkard can hardly believe his luck when you reach into your pouch and count out the 10 crowns and place them in his grubby hand. May the gods bless your boots, sir, he cackles, as he stuffs the gleaming crowns into his pocket. Well, if it's the crooked sage you be wantin', you needin' Tavern Lane, over there, he says, enthusiastically pointing to the street which leads to the east. With the drunkard's gleeful laughter echoing in your ears, you spur Bracer to a canter and enter the foul-smelling street. Clamped against the walls of the surrounding buildings are oil-soaked torches which serve to illuminate the signs of the wine shops and taverns. They are crudely painted with emblems: a bloodied battle-axe, a winged horse, a watery sun rising from a broken skull, and there is not one that resembles a crooked sage as you had begun to suspect. You have been duped. When, suddenly, you hear the sound of drunken revelry coming from a 2-story building at the end of the street. Its oaken doors hang open, and a vivid orange glare of its roaring hearth spills invitingly into the dank night gloom. Though it has no painted emblem, you sense at once that this must be the Crooked Sage Inn. As you approach, a sallow-faced stable boy limps from a wooden hut which is leaning precariously against the side of the tavern. For a gold crown, he takes charge of your horse and shows you to the tap room. You enter the open doorway, and the hubbub of laughter and conversation dies momentarily as all eyes turn to stare in your direction. They consider you for a few moments, and then the chatter and noise begins anew, and the eyes return to their other matters. After descending a flight of steps to the sunken floor of the taproom, you make your way through the noisy crowd to the beer-soaked counter. A husky serving wench thuds a pewter tankard upon the bar and fills it with frothing ale. First one's on the house, the rest you pays for, you understand? You nod your reply, and as you sip the watery brew, you take stock of the inn's villainous clientele. They are not a pretty crowd. The Crooked Sage is a tavern with an ill reputation, even in the brawling turmoil of Helgador's normal quarter. The city guard never patrol here. A weekly donation to the guard captain guarantees that they are always somewhere else. Order, and what passes for the law, is kept by Saga, the owner of the inn, and his 2 brutish sons, Zola and Gorgan. You finish your ale, and the serving wench returns to refill your taggart. That'll be a gold crown, she says, thrusting out a calloused palm. You place the crown on the bar, and as she goes to pick it up, you take hold of her in wrist to prevent her from moving away. Why are you here? Tonight, you ask. No? Where's Schmud? Is he here tonight? Over there, she growls, pointing to a shadowy alcove at the rear of the taproom. Now, let go of me or I'll call Saga. You release her, take your ale, and slowly walk towards the place where Smud, is supposedly seated. He is in the company of a giggling bar girl and doesn't notice your approach, as you stand beside him until you thump your tankard down on his table. The sound startles him, and immediately he dances to the floor. What? No, immediately he reaches for his sword. He has a desperate look about him which reminds you of a cornered rat. If you were to avoid a confrontation, you will have to say or do something to assuage his fear. I will give you a spare rope. Yes. Calm yourself, you say, letting your hands drift away from your weapons. I mean you no harm and just want to talk. The knave stares at you with deep suspicion. Look, I've even prepared to compensate you for the privilege. You unshoulder your backpack, unbuckle the flap, and offer him our rope. After some hesitation, he eats the rope. He's clearly impressed by your generosity. He removes his hand from his sword, and the scowl of fearful suspicion softens into a smile as he lowers himself back into the seat. With a flick of his hand, he dismisses the bar girl. She leaves without process, and as you watch her walk away, he leans across the table and says, "How could I help you, sire?" Well, stranger. What do you know about a little hamlet called Vaughan? He asks quietly. For an instant, the look of suspicion returns to his beady eyes. He sneers and said, "I know it no longer exists. That's what I know. There's rumours on the street that it was destroyed by a storm, but there ain't nothing more to it than that. Though there's more than I care to remember." You show him the black amulet that the president gave you. Sword master guy. And once more you repeat your question. He refuses to answer further, fearing that one of the Kedharian agents is out to arrest him. So we're stuck with a non-helper helper? He's halfway out of his seat when suddenly his chest is transfixed by the crystal window. With eyes wide-eyed, with pain and shocked surprise, he crashes to the ground in a mix of reality and difficulty. He's halfway out of his seat. Sorry. You show him the black amulet. You repeat your question. He refuses to answer, fearing that you're one of Kedharian's agents out to arrest him. He kicks back his chair and tries to stand. He doesn't make it. He's halfway out of his seat when suddenly his chest is transfixed by the crystal arrow. Wide-eyed with pained and shocked surprise, he crashes to the floor amid a spray of blood and spilt ale. A wave of panic sweeps through the crowded inn. Women shriek hysterically, and gruff voices shout in anger and confusion, demanding Smud's killer be found. You back away from the alcove, and as you turn to the counter, you catch a glimpse of a figure running along the gallery which overlooks the trap room floor. He is clad from head to foot in a close-fitting black tunic and carrying a bow. You watch as he disappears through a door that leads off the gallery. If you want to chase him, or if you want to leave via the front door, chase him up the stairs. You race up the stairs and kick open the door. Inside you discover a group of gamblers standing around a table. They've all risen from their seats to look at something on the far side of the room. Once you follow their gaze, you see it's the archer. He's climbing through an open window. I do possess my own bow. Swiftly, you shoulder your bow and draw an arrow from your quiver. You take hurried aim as the man in black leaps from the window ledge into the balcony. Pick a random number from the random number table. If you possess Grand Weapon Mastery, add 5. So we'd have to do really poorly to fail. The tip of your arrow clips his calf and you hear a yelp of pain. However, the wound is superficial and it doesn't prevent him from making his escape. With weapon in hand, you climb out of the window. You're expecting the archer to attack you the moment that you appear, but the balcony is deserted and he has disappeared. With your keen eyes, you notice fresh blood stains on the balcony rail, and you capture a glimpse of movement from on the roof opposite. It is the archer. Despite his wounded leg, he has leapt across the narrow street and is now making his escape on the rooftops. With the grace of a panther, you spring onto the balcony rail and leap across to the roof opposite. Without breaking a sweat, you set off after the fleeting assassin and pursue him to the edge of a flat-topped warehouse at the end of Tavern Lane. Here, a plank of wood has been laid down to span the gap of 50 or so feet to the rooftop opposite. The man limps across the plank. He then kicks it away to prevent you from following him. If you are determined to follow him and try to leap across the gap, turn here. You sheath your weapon and run towards the edge of the warehouse. You launch yourself towards the roof of the opposite building. Finally, you make the jump look effortless as you glide through the air and make a perfect... You make the jump effortlessly and glide through the air to make a perfect landing on the opposite roof. One moment, the black-clad archer halts beside a tall chimney stack and turns to look at you. He is clearly worried by how efficiently you are pursuing him. 3 other shadowy figures emerge from behind the stack and stand shoulder to shoulder. They stare at you for a few moments before one of their number raises his hand and hurls a glassy sphere in your direction. The sphere shatters at your feet, and in an instant your legs are engulfed by a writhing mass of magical vines. By the time you free yourself and discover that the assassin and his confederates are nowhere to be seen, you are left with nothing to do but approach the chimney stack where you found them, and where you find, lying at its base, another one. And where you find at its base a plum-sized coin of black metal engraving. Cautiously, you approach the chimney stack where you find, lying at its base, a palm-sized coin of black metal engraving. You pick up the disc and slip it into your pocket. Record the runic disc on your special items list. You must discard an item in favor of it if you are already at the maximum number permissible. Having lost sight of the 4 shadowy figures, you decide now to call off the chase. You make your way back down from the roof and retrace your steps back to the crooked sage in order to collect your horse. As soon as the stable boy has saddled Bracer, you mount up and leave the inn at a gallop. You decide to forego sleep and begin your journey north without any delay. Shortly past midnight, you pass through Helgor's ruined east gate and head off along the rutted track that winds a northeasterly route towards the River Storn. The moon is full and the rough trail is illuminated clearly by its cold, ashen light. Far to the north, an electrical storm is brewing. Flashes of forked lightning light up the horizon and the sky, and the hills echo to the rumble of distant thunder. You've covered little more than 10 miles when the trail gradually peters out. You continue on as though nothing has happened. And you continue to cross the heathland for a few miles until you find another trail, muddier than the first, which has fresh tracks imprinted on its surface, lending you off towards the northeast. Curious as to their origin, you dismount and take a closer look. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have Hunt Mastery, add 1. If you have reached the right rank, you may add other skills. We still do well. Your advanced Kai skills and the mud make it easy for you to tell that the tracks were made by humans travelling on foot. You count 8 different pairs of footprints, 6 made by sandaled feet and 2 made by heavied hobnailed boots. The tracks are 2 days old, and they're all heading in a northeasterly direction. The muddy track climbs to the peak of a ridge, and then makes a twisting descent to a copse of sickly-looking trees, clustered at the base of a gully. You've noticed that the night wind was gradually getting warmer, and as you reach the copse, a few drops of rain begin to splatter the shoulder of your cloak. Within minutes, the gentle shower is transformed into torrential downfall. Suddenly, thunder booms overhead, and forks of lightning streak down to explode among the surrounding trees, setting them on fire. Fearful of the danger, you peer through the wall of rain and search for safer shelter. Aided by your senses, you detect 2 possible refuges from the storm, an overhanging rock and the entrance to a mine shaft. Mine shaft, mine shaft. You urge Bracer up a treacherously slick path that leads to the entrance. Without faltering on the difficult ascent, he carries you to the top, where 2 rusty rails disappear into the mine shaft's shadowy maw. You approach, and the instant you are out of the rain, your keen sixth sense alerts you to the fact that you are not the only one seeking shelter here. The scent and greasy fur and the glint of 2 green eyes in the gloom tells you that you've stumbled upon the lair of a mountain wolf. The wolf growls menacingly, and Bracer backs away in fright. Quickly you prepare to use your Magna Chi skill of animal control to calm the beast. We do not have Ultra Super Giga Mega Animal Control, so sucks to be us. Your basic instincts are sufficient to calm the wolf, but it is clearly agitated by the scent and presence of the horse. Confused and frustrated, Confused and frustrated by its conflicting instincts, the wolf retreats into the depths of the mine shaft, where it howls through the remainder of the night. Unable to sleep because of the wolf's incessant cries, you spend the next 5 hours in quiet discomfort, waiting for the storm to subside. Lose 2 health. Well, we sleep really, really badly. The first light of dawn brings with it a dramatic change in the weather. The storm has ended and the sky is now bright and clear, but on the distant horizon you can still see flashes of lightning and hear thunder rumbling in the mountains. You leave the mine and urge Bracer down the muddy slope towards the track, most of which you discover has been washed away by last night's storm. The damp earth is steaming in the unusual heat of the morning sun, and the air crackles with the eerie residue of static electricity. You continue your ride through the hills without stopping until shortly after midday you come to a derelict hovel that stands at the edge of a marshy peat bog. Your senses inform you that there is someone inside, and spurred on by curiosity, you resolve to find out who they might be. You dismount and leave your horse to feed on the marsh grass while you step forward to investigate the hovel. You're 20 feet away when suddenly it creaks open and you see an old man standing in the doorway, smiling at you. If you ever travelled to Veretta, the city of Tahoe, or a hut on the Royan Pike, turn here. Immediately you recognize him. This man is Gwaine, the Sage of Veretta. Welcome, Grand Master. It has been a long time since we last met. Come into my humble abode. The time has come for us once more to discuss the future. He leads you into a derelict hovel and offers you a seat next to an ancient table carved from stone. Then he lowers himself carefully into a chair opposite and looks deeply into your eyes. The Lord Ramoa sent word to me in Veretta that you were on your way here, he says, taking a parchment envelope from the folds of his robe. I and my sages, being that we are observing the skies in this region, wish... The skies in this region for many months, and are sure that an event of great and terrible importance is close at hand. The stars and the storms portend that an evil power will soon arise on Magnamund. Could it be the rising of Vashna, you ask, daring to voice your fear? Indeed, we believe it is Vashna, unless you could prevent it, Lone Wolf. The Dark Lord and his army will rise from the Makangord. If you possess a black amulet, turn here. You remove the amulet from your pocket and hand it to the sage. President Cadrian gave me this. It was found on the shore of Lake Vaunderol, near the ruins of Vaughan, by a rogue who went by the name of Smud. I tracked him to a tavern in Helgor, but he was assassinated before he could tell me anything more about it. Can you? Gwinion holds the amulet close to his myopic eyes and examines the engravings in great detail. After a short while he says it is a seal, the amulet of fealty worn by the acolytes of Vashna. It would seem to confirm our fears. I have seen such amulets before, but none crafted from this metal. It is a metal not of this world. He hands you back the amulet and you return it to your pocket. He opens his envelope and removes a time-yellowed parchment that he spreads upon the smooth stone table. It is a map of northern Magador. He points to Lake Vornadol and tells you that the eye of the strange storms that have swept this region have been calculated as to be within a few miles of the lake's eastern shore, close to the Makangorge. The hamlet of Vaughan, or what is left of it, is located on the southern shore, near the tributary river. He counsels you to be on your guard at all times, and to help you succeed, he gives you an amulet of his own. Wear this, Grand Master, he says, as he places the corded amulet about your neck. It will keep you safe from some of the perils that may await you. Record the platinum amulet, which you wear on a cord around your neck, as a special item on your action chart. You need not discard items in order to carry it. You thank Gwinion for his help, and he waves farewell as you leave the hovel and walk back to your house. Your horse, sorry. Good luck, Grand Master. My hopes and prayers go with you. By nightfall, you've covered 20 miles of rough terrain and have been assaulted by the extremes of weather. From a desert-like heat at mid-afternoon, the temperature plummeted, causing a sub-zero squall which left you and Bracer blanketed with frost. But now, as darkness draws its cloak over the world, the temperature quickly rises. This heralds the return of the rain and the thunder and the violent lightning strikes. Helped by your tracking skills, you discover a shallow cave where you can take shelter from the storm. You are tired and hungry, and unless you possess Hunt Mastery or eat a meal, lose more health. I have hunting. You thank Gwynien for his help and wave farewell as you leave the hobble and walk back to your horse. Good luck, may my hopes and prayers go with you. No, sorry. We already did all this. I thought it had counted as clicked, but it didn't. The cave offers adequate protection, but you are plagued by a feeling of unease. A familiar tingling sensation. Oh no. Oh no! We better beware of the undertow. A strange tingling sensation runs up and down your spine. It is your sixth sense warning you that danger lurks ahead. You stand in the mouth of the cave and scan the surrounding storm-swept hills. When you're unable to detect any obvious threat, you shrug it off and step back to the dry inside of the cave. Fatigue and the strange weather must have begun to affect your senses. Pick a number from the random number table. If you possess Grand Pathmanship, for every level that you have attained above the rank of Kai Grand Guardian, add 1 to the number you have picked. RNG. We RNG badly. You are woken in the middle of the night by an excruciating vice-like pain that engulfs your head. With great difficulty, you sit up and open your eyes, assuming that the new day must have already dawned, for the cave is awash with a vivid white light. The pain in your head begins to ease, and you look at the surrounding landscape. You see that the light has a far more sinister origin. The sky is alive with hordes of glowing wraith-like phantoms. They swoop down from the roiling storm clouds, skim the treetops, howling and screeching like insane banshees. A trio of them are hovering just a few yards from the cave mouth, from which they are assaulting you with their psychic bombardment. You muster your skills to erect a psi screen and protect your mind. But your reflexes are pain-dulled, and you lose 6 health before your defenses are complete. The trio of phantoms break off their attack and take to the sky to rejoin their unholy siblings. As their wispy, glowing forms disappear into the storm clouds, you get to your feet and quickly gather up your weapons and equipment. They have gone, but not for long. Within minutes, they return with 7 more ghosts in train. We have got Super Psychic Shield, and we are Ultra Super High Rank. You sense a hostile psychic presence, an evil mind energy, becoming stronger as they draw near. You draw on your own formidable psychic skills and erect a defensive wall around your mind, keeping you safe from their first bombardment. They move upwards and vanish into the clouds for a few moments, but then they reappear and swoop down for another attack. If you have Ultra Super Giga Psychic Attack and also have played lots of books, click here. So we do. You open the depths of your mind and summon forth a glowing ball of energy, which you project at the leading phantom. The fiery ball of psychic power rips into its form and causes it to shriek in agony. Your devastating blast has wounded the entity, but it has not yet stopped attacking. It gathers itself and swoops down upon you, like a hungry vulture descending on a corpse. This time, not a copse. For every rank you have above Guardian, add 2 to your combat skill for the duration of this fight. If you have the Summer stored, you get to have 5 health back. Ultra Super Giga Psychic? Ah. Okay, so that's now a separate attack thing. Sure. You open the depths of your mind and summon... No, we just did that. We did that, we win combat. You have destroyed all of the ghost creatures that were attacking you, but are mindful that there are still hundreds of the malevolent spirits circling the area. You stand with your horse at the rear of the cave, ready your weapon, and pray to Kai and Ashia to help you both stay safely hidden. The Votexi ride the raging storm for more than an hour until eventually it dies and they slowly disappear. An uneasy calm descends upon the land. You sense that danger has passed and you try to get some rest, but the memory of your ghastly confrontation is still in your mind and makes it troublesome to sleep. Lose 3 health. You must also eat. I have hunting. You leave the cave at first light and continue your trek towards Lake Vaunderol. Before dawn, the icy winds swept down from the north and spread a thick blanket of frost on the trail, freezing the mud beneath. To your surprise, this makes the going easier and swifter than expected, and by noon, you find that you have covered more than 30 miles. During your ride, you've watched the land slowly changing. The trail is steeper, and the granite outcroppings have begun to appear, tinged with moss and interspersed with pine trees and grey-green underbrush. You're approaching an area littered with huge, gigantic boulders. The trail is steeper, and the granite outcroppings have begun to appear, tinged with moss and interspersed with pine trees and grey-green underbrush. You approach an area littered with huge pine granite. When suddenly your pathmanship skills alert you to danger. You sense there is an ambush ahead. Random number table. We do not do poorly enough to critical fail. Hurriedly, you leave the trail, steering Bracer through the undergrowth towards the dense cover of a pine copse. Here, you quickly dismount and rein him to a tree before going forward to see what you can find. There's a band of brigands lying in wait with arbalists. You discover a gang of brigands are lying in ambush, hidden among the boulders that line the side of the trail. Your hunting skill enables you to circle round and get behind them without being seen. And from your vantage point, you observe their leader and 3 henchmen. Shoot them, magic them, or wait. Shoot them. You draw an arrow. You draw an arrow and draw it back until the feathers are touching your lips. You let slip the straining bowstring. The shaft whistles through the trees towards the brigand leader's back and hits him squarely between the shoulder blades with a loud thonk. He screams and throws his arms wide as he crashes face first to the ground. The henchmen spin around and see you. They bellow commands to their underlings, and at once the angry villains are close. Sorry. The henchman spins around and see you. They bellow commands to their underlings, and at once the angry brigands begin to close on your position from all sides. You retreat to the trees and head back the way you came, anxious to retrieve your horse before the brigands find it. You are within a stone's throw of your horse when suddenly you are confronted by more than 20 bandits, hungry for revenge. They attack you in a frenzy and you are forced to fight all 12 at once. Sure. Ultra Super Giga... What the hell is... I don't know what that is. Okay, they did some minor damage to us. Hell, more of the damage was basically from our own psychic attacking. You slay the last of the Vakavarians. As the last of the Vakavarians fall dead at your feet, you step away from their heaped bodies and wipe the sweat of battle from your bloodied brow. You've slain the enemy, but you can hear more coming through the undergrowth, eager to reach you and avenge the deaths of their brothers in arms. Several of the dead have satchels and backpacks slung around their shoulders. Some have been torn open during combat, and their contents lie spilled on the ground. A cursory glance reveals the following weapons and following items. You may keep them. Let us take the pipe. Fill up our our quiver full of arrows. A spyglass sounds useful. So does a blanket. Alrighty. Remember to mark any that you keep on your action chart. Swiftly, you make your escape into the dense pines. The area is alive with bandits, and you're forced to flee northwards, away from the place where you left Bracer tethered to the tree. You are anxious for his safety and mindful that there are still many miles to cover before you reach Lake Vaunderol, but you dare not turn back for him. You hear something that makes you halt in your tracks, the sound of a horse whinnying. Your Kai senses detect the warm scent of horse flesh on the air, mingling with the sharp tang of the surrounding pine trees. Hopeful that Bracer escaped from the brigands and has come to find you, you push through the densely packed trees until you stumble upon a clearing. Here you discover that it is not Bracer, but rather that you have found the brigands' horses. They are unguarded, and you cannot sense anyone else nearby. But even so, you take care not to startle them. You untether one of the stallions and lead him away from the rest, along a trail which is covered with fresh tracks, and soon you come to a wider trail which winds away to the north. Here you mount the horse and set off along the rocky trail, though you've gone little more than half a mile when you can smell something that makes you rein the horse to a halt. From a wooded gully away to your right, you detect the scent. You detect the scent of death being carried on the afternoon breeze. If you wish to investigate the gully, sure. The horse refuses to approach the trees, so you dismount and tether him to a boulder before investigating on foot. Beyond the perimeter trees, you discover a clearing where a score of shallow graves are clustered in a circle. You scrape away some of the stones and earth from the nearest grave and uncover the corpse of a man clad in mouldering red robes. A black hood trimmed with skeletal insignia identifies him to have been an acolyte of Vashna. He and his brothers were attacked, robbed, and murdered by the brigands. This clearing is one where the brigands clear things up. I don't want to further examine the dead bodies of the followers of Vashna. Through the afternoon, the rocky trail descends through an unlovely landscape of shale hills and crags, topped with thorny brambles. It is a difficult terrain, but your ride passes without incident. Shortly before dusk, you come to the top of a ridge and catch your first glimpse of the River Storn and the snow-capped peaks of the mountain of the southern Derncrags beyond. The elation of having come so far is sobered when you see that the distant sky is changing rapidly, and only a slender streak of light fringes the horizon. A storm is coming. As you make the long, gradual descent towards the river, the air becomes humid. As you make the long, gradual descent towards the river, the air becomes humid and the dark clouds appear overhead. The turmoil of moisture quickly changes... The turmoil? Okay. The turmoil of moisture quickly changes the atmosphere. Lightning flashes without warning from the clouds to the earth, and arcs skyward once more, its energy echoing in a slow roll of the... its energy roiling in a slow roll of thunder. Then the heavens open and a deluge of rain saturates the land. You calm your startled horse and urge him through the pounding rain, praying that all the while you'll be able to find shelter before the night closes in. You're within a mile of the river when the darkness is almost complete. Yet, aided by your keen vision, you are able to make out two places that might offer some degree of protection from the storm. The first is a cone-shaped stone hut perched near the river's edge. The second is a rocky hollow close to the trail. Sure, we'll look at the hut. The hut has long since been deserted, but it still offers you and your horse good protection against the elements. Watertight, and there is sufficient straw on the floor to feed your mount. You should not feed wet straw like that to a horse. You'll give the horse critical tummy ache that will kill the horse. Before you settle down to rest, unless you possess Hunt Grand Mastery, eat a meal or lose 3 endurance points. Sheltered from the foul storm, you're able to get a good night's rest. You awake feeling invigorated. Restore 3 health points. I have hunting, so I don't need to eat. But I get to have my 3 hit points back, which is nice. In the cold light of dawn, you see that the River Storn is too deep and fast-flowing to be fordable at this point. The trail follows the river downstream, and you follow it in the hopes of finding somewhere to cross. 2 miles later, you come across such a place. At a point where the river slows and widens, you find a crude rope ferry has been erected. It comprises 2 rafts attached to 2 long lengths of rope suspended above the river. Crossing can be achieved by boarding a raft, pulling on its guide rope to haul it across to the opposite bank. You wait and observe the area. When you feel sure that it is safe, you place your horse aboard the raft and begin the laborious task, of pulling yourself across to the other side. Random number odd. The crossing is laborious and tiring. Lose 2 hell. But at length you reach the far side of the river and disembark safely. A stony trail runs along the bank heading north, and you follow it with high hopes of reaching Lake Vaughan-de-Rol before sunset. All day the sun blazes supreme in its cloudless sky. The waves of heat creating a shimmering, distorted view of the trail ahead. The distant horizon is streaked with myriad colors, and the dry air crackles with energy. The distant horizon is streaked with a myriad of colours, and the dry air crackles with electricity, the legacy of last night's violent storm. Late in the afternoon, you come to the ruins of an ancient settlement and stop to allow your horse to rest while in the shade. We don't have ultra super giga pathmanship. You leave the ancient settlement and continue to ride along the sun-baked river trail. Dusk approaches. You keep an eye open on the weather for the sign of more storms. Clouds are rapidly forming over the mountains to the east, and the metallic smell of ozone is strong in the evening breeze. In the middle distance, you see a large herd of vithas, the timid goat-like mountain animals rarely seen at this time of the year, yet here are more than 200 of them drinking at the river's edge. You sense that they are nervous and confused. The eerie weather has disrupted their natural migratory instincts, and they have descended to the river a season earlier than is usual. Suddenly there is a flash of lightning, and a mighty clap of thunder explodes in the sky overhead. The herds scatter in all directions. Then, an incredible ball of light shoots down from the heavens and hits the trail, scattering stone and like shrapnel, and leaving a huge smoking nose. You pull your horse off the trail and run with the fleeing monster things. As more lightning balls streak down from the stormy sky, we have the summer sword, so we can just bat them away. A lightning ball is hurtling directly towards you. Desperately, you pull your horse away to avoid being hit, but the fiery meteor changes course mid-flight as if guided by an unseen hand. You make one last attempt to dodge, but to no avail. It impacts the hilt of the summer sword, and you're thrown from the saddle, amidst the shower of glowing sparks. Pick a number from the random number table. You've lost points equal to the result. Sure. You are left stunned and smouldering by the impact of the lightning ball. Drunkenly, you stagger to your feet and use your Magna Chi discipline of Nexus to extinguish those parts of your cloak and tunic that are ignited by the blast. You draw the summer sword and examine the hilt, but to your amazement, you find no sign that she's damaged. Your terrified horse has halted at the river's edge, and you call to him, using your skills to calm and control his fear. He responds and returns to collect you. Swiftly, you climb back into the saddle and gallop away along the river's trail, anxious to put distance between you and the deadly storm. The rumble and crack of repeated lightning ball strikes echoes in your wake as you make your hurried escape along the river trail. It is not long until you traverse a high path, where the river Storn flows through the mountain foothills, such that the sound eventually disappears. Your senses tingle with the conviction that the storm was no accident. You feel a malevolent force is at work. Shortly before dusk, you emerge from the pass and see Lake Vaunderol for the first time. You call on your skill of hunt mastery to intensify your vision, and as you view the lake, you make out the ruins of Vaughan on the southern shore. The hamlet is blackened and desolate, but not without signs of life. There are several pinpoints of light, campfires, you would expect, judging by their colour, and you can see a square-rigged mainsail. There is a boat moored at the quay. If you wish to attempt to reach it before nightfall, no. We will approach in the morning. You find shelter in the wooded grove, close to the trail. Darkness descends, but the surrounding trees are kept illuminated by the spectacular host of twinkling lights. It is a wondrous display, but you are not deceived into thinking all is well. There is a great and evil magic at work. You can sense it. The storm stays away during the night, and you get some sleep. You rise to the dawn and breakfast on roots and berries that are plentiful in supply around here. You break camp and continue your ride. Ah, so there's so many of them that we can get extra meals. Well, stuff the pipe. We'll take the meal. You've ridden to within 5 miles of the hamlet when you're forced to leave the trail and take cover. Ahead you see a group of Vakovarian bandits encamped on a bridge which carries the trail across a fast-flowing stream. Rather than risking a confrontation, you follow the tributary of the river a mile downstream until you happen upon a shallow bend where the water is fordable by horseback. You cross, making a wide detour, and then return to the trail a mile beyond the encampment. The trail gradually descends towards the burnt and derelict hovels of Vaughan, clustered in squalid disarray around a grey stone quay. The Vakovarian bandits occupy the ruined hamlet, and you decide it would be wise to leave the trail in case they have someone posted as a lookout. A copse of stunted firs offers you a good hiding place for the horse. You tether him and then gather some grass and roots for them to eat while you are scouring the hamlet. You have no difficulty entering Vaughan unseen. From the first floor ruins of a burnt-out inn, on the outskirts of the hamlet, you make a careful observation of the Vakavarians. They seem to be systematically looting the ruins and transporting their ill-gotten booty to a fishing boat, moored in the quay. You're watching the boat closely when suddenly your concentration is broken by the sound of a yapping dog. We do not have animal mastery. An ugly, one-eyed mongrel is standing in front of the inn, barking defiantly at the first floor window, through which you are observing the Vakavarians. You curse under your breath, and mentally you command it to go away using your Kai innate skill of animal kinship. The hound ceases its yapping and runs off, whimpering pathetically, but its noise has already attracted unwanted attention. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have Ultra Super Giga Invisibility, add 3. Well, we do. Yet we still do not roll well enough. The Vakavarians search the inn. They fail to find you on the first sweep, but when they return to search again, one of you finds them on the second. You react quickly and with fatal effect. A blow to the throat silences the brigand for good and prevents him from ever warning his confederates that you were here. They don't notice that he is missing, and they leave the inn to go elsewhere. By the time they realize that they are a man short, you've searched and hidden his body and made good your escape. Amongst the dead, you can find these. What does a small sack do? No. And I don't need another rope, I don't need a bow or quiver, so we'll take the money. After leaving the inn, you make your way down through the ruin towards the lake, taking care to avoid other Vakavarians who are looting. The burnt-out shell of a meeting hall offers you an unobstructed view of the quay and its flag-stoned square. You hide here. No, because that's for the guy that betrayed me. You hide here invisible among the charred roof timbers and watch a curious scene unfold by the quayside. Tied to a stone obelisk in the center of the quay are 3 acolytes of Vashta. They are guarded by 2 Vakavarian brigands who keep themselves amused by bullying and tormenting them. For the past hour, the sky overhead has become increasingly grey and thundery, yet with occasional tufts of light. As storm flashes illuminate the northern shore. The storm is crossing the lake and the lightning is beginning to strike dangerously close to the quay. The brigands seemingly ignore the danger and are preoccupied with their petty cruelties. Then something appears on the surface of the lake that commands their attention. A massive bank of grey-white fog is rolling across the water towards the quay at an unnatural pace. When it is only a few hundred yards from the shore, a volley of lightning bolts comes hurtling from its core to explode against the quayside wall with devastating effect. Several brigands were incinerated where they stood, leaving nothing but glowing piles of ash to mark their passing. Then, suddenly, a massive longboat emerges from the wall of fog and comes speeding towards the quay. Glowing bolts of energy dart from its prow to explode upon the deck of the Vakovian ship. One of these bolts passes high between the masts and arcs through the air towards you. You watch with mounting horror as it comes. RNG. No, summer sword. You unsheath the sun sword and strike out the opposing bolt, as if attempting to deflect it. It strikes the edge of the blade and causes you to be all but. What? It strikes the edge of the blade, and you are blinded by the eruption of searing light. The summer sword has negated the force of the bolt, rendering it harmless, but the shock of the impact sends you reeling backwards. As you fall, you knock your head on the charred timber. Lose 2 health. You stagger to your feet and shake your head to clear your blurred vision. The first thing you see when your sight returns is the attacking longboat collides with the Vakavarian ship. With a deafening screech of metal twisting and shearing timbers, it shudders along the length of the starboard side, sending the brigands who are aboard cartwheeling helplessly from their decks. Grappling lines are cast and boarding planks are lowered before the Vakavarians can recover. A screaming horde of tiny... No, Cole is apparently... not Cole. We're apparently fine. Grappling lines are cast and the boarding planks lowered before the Vakavarians can recover. A screaming horde of red-robed acolytes are among them, slaying all without quarter. On the quayside, the Vakavarians are gripped by panic. Many flee to the ruins, but there is a core of battle-hardened ex-mercenaries who band together and attempt a counterattack. Bloody fighting rages along the quayside as the acolytes try to recapture the 3 that are tied to the stone obelisk. The prisoners are eventually saved by a trio of acolyte elders. Safe. Close. Acolyte elders, each of whom is armed with a glowing wand that discharges an incinerating blast of energy against any brigand foolish enough to stand in their way. The elders retreat to the longboat with the freed prisoners, but the fighting has started to spread beyond the quay. There is a sudden noise to your left, and when you turn to face it, you see 2 acolytes of Vashna racing along the street towards you, with bloodied swords held ready to strike you down. We do have a bow, let's shoot them. You draw an arrow to your lips and fire it. With blinding speed and accuracy, you pierce the heart of the leading acolyte, killing them instantly, and causing the partner to skid to a halt. Unnerved by your deadly prowess, he turns and runs back to his brothers. Suddenly, a piercing note blares out above the din of battle. It is a war horn, and it is sounding the recall of the acolytes to the longboat. You see the acolytes of Vashna, who are fighting in the ruins, suddenly break off from their combat and race back to the quay in answer to this command. Their mission having been achieved, they've recaptured their 3 brothers. Sorry. As you watch the streaming along the blood-strewn quay, a bold plan springs to mind. It would enable you to quickly discover the truth about what is happening in the Macken Gorge. If you were to don a red robe, you could infiltrate the ranks. Sure, why not? It is too dangerous a plan. No, or have a go. We'll have a go. You don the red robe taken from one of the dead acolytes and raise its black hood to keep your face hidden. The folds of this voluminous garment cover your weapon as well as your clothing, and a haversack taken from another is large enough to conceal your backpack. Confident that you have enough to pass off, confident that you can pass off for one of them, you run to the quayside and join with the acolytes climbing back aboard the longboat. When your turn comes, you leap from the quay onto the deck of the ship. You land close to the sandaled feet of one of the 3 acolyte elders, and he glares at you, though he doesn't seem to know your disguise. When your turn comes, you leap from the quay onto the deck below. You land very close to the sandaled feet of one of the elders. You take your place on a bench alongside the others and use your Kai camouflage skills to avoid attention. You notice that a bank of oars stands upright in the gunwales of the boat, and it strikes you odd that no order has been given to man them. When the last of the acolytes are safely aboard, you discover why. With the return acolytes aboard, an elder gives the order, and the grappling lines and planks holding the longboat secure to the Vakavarian ship are cut, tossed into the lake. The moment that it's done, the 3 elders raise their glowing wands of power and touch them together to form a sort of triangle. There is a flash of greenish light, and a swirling cone of vapor coils into the sky, pouring from the tip of the triangle. It creates a howling wind which fills the sails and catapults the longboat away from the quayside at tremendous speed. It takes just a few minutes for the ruins of Vaughan to disappear over the horizon. Aboard the longboat, the victorious acolytes busy themselves as the cold waters of Lake Vaughan speed by beneath the keel. Some are attending to the wounded in battle, others chanting a sombre dirge, or sitting quietly with their heads bowed, lost in unholy prayer. The remainder clean their weapons and stare vacantly at the distant mountains. You keep your head bowed and pretend to be praying. The deception seems to be working until suddenly someone grabs you. The deception seems to be working until a hand suddenly grabs your shoulder, and you hear a gruff voice command you in a language you don't readily understand. I don't have pathmanship. You turn your head slightly and see a pair of sandaled feet standing on the deck beside you. They belong to the elder with whom you collided when you jumped aboard. Huh. He repeats his command, and this time you recognize some of the words. You even think he's saying something like, "Move or you'll get wounded." And sure, we'll obey his command, why not? You shuffle along the bench hoping that this will appease him, but he merely serves to anger him. He shouts at you, and thinking that you are being directly insubordinate, he grabs your robe and pulls you roughly to your feet. We do have the runic disc. So now we're going to get to pretend to be not who we are. The runic disc that you found in Helgor falls from your pocket. As the elder hauls you roughly from the bench, it bounces off the deck and comes to rest at his foot. He releases his grip on your robe and stoops to pick it up, thinking that this is booty you've looted from Vaughan. But his temper quickly cools when he reasons that it has to be a mask from the Great Guildhall. He releases his grip on your robe and stoops to pick it up, thinking that his booty looted from Vaughan. His temper is quickly cools when he recognizes the mark to be of the Guild of Rem, the most feared brotherhood of assassins in all of Northern Magnamond. He is aware that the Guild assassins have been employed as agents to carry out missions for the acolytes, and he assumes that this is what has happened with respect to you. Nervously, he returns the disc, then, without further word, backs away and bows his head, leaving you to attend to other matters. Other matters at the prow of the boat. Those seated around you have now become uncomfortably curious. To avoid their attentions, you get up and move to the stern, where a score of acolytes are kneeling in prayer. You kneel between the 2 praying acolytes and begin to mumble along with their sonorous prayer dirge. A shiver runs along your spine and you begin to feel queasy. A strong aura of evil surrounds the group, and your psychic senses are struggling to shield your mind from its insidious influence. You recognize that some of the acolytes are shaking uncontrollably, and sweat drips from their faces despite the icy wind that howls at the deck. You recognize that they are suffering the after effects of using Adgana, a potent and highly addictive poison which increases skill and ferocity in combat. You hazard a guess that many of the acolytes were made to take the narcotic before the assault, to stir them into a battle frenzy. You've been kneeling a while among the praying acolytes, when suddenly the war horn blares a long discordant tone. All eyes turn to the east, where the shoreline can be seen on the horizon. The longboat is speeding towards the wooden jetty, where a large group of red-robed figures is waiting. Sure. The longboat glides to a halt beside the jetty, and and attendant acolytes make it secure with ropes and horsters. Horsters? Horses? A thick rope or cable for mooring a ship. Fair enough. Never heard that before. An elder oversees the disembarkation, allowing the wounded off first, followed by the rest in descending order of rank and superiority. You join in the queue with the lowly initiates and follow the line as it files out. It is a grand building, a hall made of stone that shows signs of having only recently been used. The interior of the hall is a dark and forbidding place, decorated with the ritualistic trappings of the acolytes of Vashna. Spluttering candles dimly illuminate a central altar, and a sickly-smelling incense saturates the air. The acolytes encircle the altar, several ranks deep, and listen intently as two of the elders conduct a litany in praise of Dark Lord Vashna and the victory he has seen fit to grant them. They conclude their sinister ceremony by crying out the words, "We celebrate this eve of the great welcoming. May Lord Vashna, our master, vanquish his enemies and rule unchallenged evermore." The acolytes respond spontaneously by repeating the master's name. "Vashna, Vashna, Vashna," they cry, as they slowly shuffle out of the hall single file. At the door, each acolyte is handed a burning torch and made to parade past the elders, who give them an unholy blessing. You take care to keep your face concealed within the raised hood of your robe as your turn comes to pass before them. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have magic, spirit walking, add 2 to the number. Oh no, magic, psychic defense, or spirit walking. Well, we do. If you possess the runic disc, add 1. If you possess the summer sword, deduct 3. Ooh! Ooh, this is rare. The summer sword is acting negatively. It's anti-helping us. For every rank you've attained above Kai Grand Guardian, add 1. We still do really well, despite having the summer sword. You pass before the elders without incident and follow the procession as it winds its way through the settlement. As it nears the perimeter, you pass beside some smaller huts where a few of the doors open. Most of the huts are empty, but you notice one where the table near the door is stacked with captured weapons. I don't care about the weapons hut. Beyond the perimeter of the settlement, the path steadily gets steeper as it ascends into the hills. The torch-bearing line of acolytes illuminates the rocky landscape with flickering shadows. As slowly they zigzag their way eastwards, another storm is brewing. The eastern sky is alive with electrical activity, and thunder booms beyond the horizon. Your ears pop as the air pressure fluctuates wildly, and the howl of the wind seems to be growing ever louder. Then you notice something strange. Your torch doesn't seem to be affected by the storm and is burning as smoothly as if you were in an enclosed room. You glance over your shoulder and see that it is true of all the torches. It is as if the procession is being protected from the outside elements by an invisible tunnel. 2 miles from the settlement, you pass a group of acolyte youths all in their early teens, calling encouragement, chanting and waving the line onwards. Then the path bends and you see a wayside altar and a large marble trough filled with stagnant green water. As they file past, every acolyte dips his right hand into the trough and touches it to his heart. I do not have a black token. Soon it is your turn to dip your hand in the trough. As you come to within a few yards of the foul water, you sense that it is cursed. The evil surrounding it is strong. The nausea rises up from the pit of your stomach as you dip your fingers into the cursed brine. Pick a number from the random number table. The number you have picked is equal to the number of health that you lose from touching the cursed water. We still have good health. You quickly recover from the unexpected shock and manage to keep pace with the line as it moves its way up the hill, away from the poison trough without displaying any noticeable discomfort. For 3 miles, you trek stolidly through the hills towards a deep magenta glow that is bathing the horizon. As you round a knoll of rock-shaped like an accusing skeletal finger, you are confronted by a spectacle which leaves you staring open-mouthed with awe and horror. An expanse of dead land, littered with cracked and scattered rocks, slopes down to the edge of an immense chasm that stretches more than a mile from rim to rim. It is the Macken Gorge. Hordes of screeching vortexi ride the violent electrical storm that rages in the clouds above the vast abyss. The earth shudders in echoing response to the booming thunder. Near the rim of the chasm there stands a towering arch, hewn of stone that shimmers with such a supernatural brilliance you cannot focus fully upon it. Peering closer, you see before the arch an elaborate multi-tiered dais, constructed entirely of crystal. Around it kneel hundreds of acolytes chanting devoutly. Their dreary voices add to the dreadful tone. You follow the procession as it winds its way up towards the dais as soon as you see that there is a solitary figure standing on the utmost tier. He faces the shimmering arch, his hands outstretched, and with every movement of his fingers there's a subtle shift in the spectrum of colours within the angry clouds above. It is as if he is manipulating the storm as a conductor would an orchestra. With a grand sweep of his arms, he calms the turbulent sky, and then he turns to face the congregation. I have been to both Cag and Mulgaruith. You intensify your vision and focus upon the figure who commands the crystal dais. Shock freezes your spine when you recognize the face and flowing platinum hair of the archdruid Kadak, ruler of Mulgaruith, usurper lord of Cag. He has grown strong since your last fateful encounter, and now it seems that he is poised to fulfill the dark god Nar's lust for vengeance by releasing Vashna and his hordes from the depths of the Macken Gorge. You take your place among the throng, kneeling before the dais, and hear Kardak's voice ring out, above the howling storm. I summon forth from the vortex of the plains the deliverer of Vashna, mighty lord of darkness, prince of the legions of the relentless dead. Come to us now and fulfill our destiny. We are worthy. We prove our faith in the undying power of Vashna. With these words, the acolytes utter a chilling cry of affirmation and rise to their feet. By rank, they follow the elder in single file towards a small, shimmering metallic arch which stands to one side of the crystal dais, almost obscured by the glare of the larger one. One by one, they file through it, under the watchful gaze of Kadak, and then return to their places where they kneel and pray. As you approach the arch, you sense a curtain of power draw across it. You pray to the god Kyanishia to protect you. We do have the Summer Sword. The moment you step through it, you feel an electrifying jolt run through your body. Snake-like tendrils of blue-white energy arc from the rim of the arch to the hilt of the Summer Sword. A gasp of astonishment rises from the acolytes, audible even above the howling wind. We have an intruder in our midst, screams Kadak, levelling his staff at you accusingly. You fight the paralyzing effect of the current and tug the sun sword free of its scabbard. For a moment, the current weakens as it is absorbed and neutralized by the summer sword's divine energy. But then the tip of Kadak's staff ignites with crimson flame and the current intensifies, numbing your limbs with its insidious effects. I know you, intruder. Lone Wolf, the doomed hero of a doomed realm. You are a fool to come here. Your powers are no match for those of Na, the King of Darkness. With this he turns to the acolytes and throws his hands up triumphantly. This night we shall celebrate a double victory, the resurrection of Lord Varshna and the destruction of Grand Master Lone Wolf. The acolytes scream their approval, but their cheers are drowned by the ever-increasing noise of the storm. Then you see that the storm itself is changing. A huge vortex of swirling cloud is descending from the heavens, a tornado, whose deadly funnel is reaching down towards you. Then the tip of the roaring plume touches the ground at your feet, and with a terrifying suddenness, you are torn from the energy curtain and sent hurling through the air towards the dark center of the towering arc. For countless minutes you hurtle into the whirling abyss of darkness and howling gale, torn by freezing winds that cut to the marrow despite your Magnakai protections. Then, as if waking from a dream, the sensation of falling ceases, and you find yourself standing on a plateau of black volcanic rock, cratered and split by rivers of blazing lava. You take a tentative step forwards and feel the ground sag beneath your feet. The thin crust of cooled lava wrinkles and tears, and a jet of flickering yellow flame shoots upwards to engulf your legs. Your Nexus skills are sufficiently developed to protect you from the flames and hellish temperatures, but you're amazed that your boots and clothing have not ignited. Then you sense that your entirety is being protected by a field of energy radiating from the platinum amulet given you by Gwinian. Silently you thank him for his gift, for you suspect now that even your Kai skills would be hard-pressed to keep you safe in this alien domain. With difficulty you cross the semi-molten terrain and reach an island of blue-grey basalt rock, strewn with cubes of obsidian and jet. At the island's centre you discover a huge, untidy pile of cubes which make a crude temple. There is a yawning hollow at its base, and as you draw closer you sense something lurks therein. Suddenly a trio of horny-skinned creatures emerge from the dark hollow and take flight on wings that glimmer like burnished gold. You watch them ascend, but you have difficulty following their flight when their bodies begin to flicker in and out of existence. We have Hunt Mastery and our super high rank, so check. You scan the brooding sky, you're using your ability to see in ultraviolet and infrared. Your advanced skills enable you to see and track the creatures as they circle around their lair and come swooping down to attack you. You draw your weapon and in the ultraviolet spectrum detect that an aura of protection is sheathing it from the extreme temperatures of this domain. Then a hideous shriek splits the air and the first of the beast dives upon you. It is not unskilled in combat. We will use extra psychic-y stuff. Okay, we defeated it without taking too much damage. Oh, cool. I didn't know that clicking that would do this. Silver braces, law circles, Grandmaster discipline, silver helm, base number. Does that mean this does the same? Yes, it does. 28 plus silver braces plus law circles plus Grandmaster disciplines. And if we go in here, we can see the path we took. We did not actually go through this way, which is the way I thought we'd go. We went down, around, up, and this way. So first to the Lawstone of Veretta, then across to Vakavar, Elgor, and now up, past the lake. And what was the other thing? It was here, and then I wanted to look at the circles. Because we might want to choose our next discipline based on... No, we already have all the circles. Unless there's more. Ooh! We actually get to see the lore stones, which we've never seen. Like this. Okay. Still, back to it. We've defeated the flying dragon golden things. The moment you slay the first two, their bodies dissolve into a swirling cloud of steamy vapor. Upon the death of the third, the vapor unites and expands with a breathtaking speed until the basalt island and the fiery plain below are engulfed by a thick grey fog. You walk through this sea of mist for what seems like an eternity until your senses detect that something is circling above you. At first you suspect more of the gold-winged creatures have come hunting, but then you detect that it is something different. There is only a single creature, and you sense that it is using a highly developed psychic probe. I do have Ultra Super Giga resist elements. You stand perfectly still and concentrate on attaining the trance state needed in order to effect your transition from consciousness to suspended animation. You feel as if you are drifting to sleep, although you've entered a state in which you appear, to any outside observer, to be dead. High above you, the unseen creature probes the fog for evidence of life force, and unable to detect any, it trails away to another part of the hellish plain, in search of prey with which to feed its young. You hear the winged beast departing, and you bring yourself out of the death trance, awakening with a start. Soon the temperature begins to drop, and the great grey wall of fog condenses and falls as rain. The rain freezes, and you quickly find yourself surrounded by a wall of glittering ice, which stretches like a range of jagged glass mountains from horizon to horizon. In the distance, you see a dim light flickering and twinkling in the heart of the ice mountains. You strike out towards it, across the frost-encrusted ground, and find yourself covering the distance quicker than you would ever have thought possible. A mile slips by in a single step, and the surrounding terrain becomes impossible to focus on. Suspecting that you are the victim of a powerful illusion, you stride up to the flickering ice wall and thrust your hand against it. Effortlessly, your palm sinks into the glassy blue surface, and you fall headlong into the icy mountainside. You are standing inside a mountain of ice. A dim blue vista stretches away in every direction, and here the light appears bent and fractured by the myriad frozen facets of the water. You are encased, yet you can still move. You are able to stride forwards through the seemingly solid walls as if you are moving through air. Confidently, you walk through the strange and beautiful beauty of this crystal world, striding on towards the distant dim twinkling light that first drew you to the mountains. Slowly, the icy vastness begins to change, and you see new wonders. There are treasures, veins of gold, gemstones, chests, coins, pearls, rubies. Rubies aren't a gemstone? And there are graves and lost tombs, where corpses watch your passing with burning eyes. Their ghastly stares bleed the warmth from your body, and leave you shivering with psychic shock. You take 4 health damage. At length you pass beyond the ice and emerge into the shadowy recesses of a vast cavern. Here you discover the source of the light, and in its dim glow you witness a scene that makes you tremble with fear. Before you stretches a gigantic cavern. Its walls of ancient obsidian rise to a high-arched roof where hangs a circle of stalactites, 12 huge luminescent spears of lime-green stone. Bathed in the pulsating glow of its many-tiered crystal dais, identical to the one on which Archdruid Kadak stood before the great shimmering archway at the edge of the Macken Gorge. To the right of the dais you see a dark tunnel. The entrance appears like a black semicircular shadow upon the cavern wall. Standing upon the uppermost tier of the dais is a creature which is both mesmerizing and repulsing. It is the semblance of a human female, yet is more than 20 feet tall, strikingly beautiful, but you sense at once that she is wholly evil. Her skin has a deathly corpse-like pallor, and she is clad in a flowing black costume, which trails thin wisps of smoke. Cloaked figures scurry around the lower tiers of the dais, carrying out their mistress's commands and attending to her every whim. If they fail or displease her, she crushes them like insects in her elegant, deadly hands. You watch with fascination as the demonic creature makes preparations as if for a long journey. Then, in a flash of suddenly realization, you know her purpose. She is getting ready to enter the tunnel, a tunnel which will transport her to the archway at the edge of the Macken Gorge. She is the deliverer of Vashna, of whom Kadak spoke, the one who will raise the spirit of Lord Vashna from the Chasm of Doom. Suddenly you are aware that someone is standing behind you. Instantly you unsheath your weapon and spin around to face them, half expecting to see the grotesque face of a demonic minion. Instead, you find yourself looking into the impish face of a young teenage girl. She smiles and begins to laugh. "You can't harm me," she says. "You may as well sheath the weapon for now, though you'll be needing it later." "Who are you? What do you want?" you hiss. "Are you some cursed illusion, some mind trick of Nar's sent to entrap me? Well, demon, maybe this will wipe the smile from your face." You strike her a savage blow to the head, to no effect. She laughs and says in a mocking tone, "Do you believe me now?" You back away, looking to either side for a way of escaping, but there is none. She advances, and you regard her with fearful caution. She is wearing a leather-worn jerkin and ragged trousers cut short at the knees, and doesn't appear to be armed with a weapon. You should be more respectful. After all, if I should decide to leave, who will keep you hidden from the gaze of Shammath? She points at the giant demoness. Trinket or no, she continues, pointing at the platinum amulet, you wouldn't last long against her. What do you want from me? Your attention would be a good start. I wish to help you. I don't have spirit walking. Okay, how do you intend to help me? She begins by confirming your suspicions. The demoness Shamath is indeed preparing to go to the Macken Gorge in response to Kadak's summons. She will make the journey by entering the tunnel. It is a shadow gate, which will transport her from this plane of existence to Magnamund, to the great shimmering archway through which you were hurled by the storm. She will take with her an artifact of great evil, the Death Staff, a device forged by the dark god Nar himself and imbued with the powers to resurrect the spirits of his long-lost champion, Lord Vashna, from the depths of the Chasm of Doom. Nar has labelled long and hard to create the Death Staff. Can you see? It is there, resting beside Shamath's feet. You look towards the dais and see a staff of twisted black metal. Its 6-foot length looks insignificant lying beside the huge booted foot of the demoness. The time has come for the transference. Shamath must be stopped, and only you can stop her. But how, you reply? Simple. Steal the Death Staff, and enter the Shadow Gate. Use the staff to destroy Kadak's crystal dais, which will close the gate and prevent the demoness from entering Magnamund. But I warn you, you have precious time to accomplish this. Do not delay. Once you return to your world, you must destroy the dais as quickly as possible, or Shamath will enter. She has great strength and power here, but on Magnamund her powers would make her all but invincible. She looks over her shoulder as if being pursued by an invisible hunter. I wish I could tell you more, but I have my own battle to fight. Be brave, but be swift. And with these words, she begins to fade before your eyes. The moment she vanishes completely, the caverns echo to a deafening roar. It is the angry cry of Shamath. She has seen you. The dreadful gaze of Shamath falls upon you, and your blood runs cold. She points a black-gloved finger at your hiding place and speaks a thunderous phrase in the dark tongue that rings with metallic thunder, like metallic thunder throughout the vaulted cavern. Slowly, she raises her other hand and levels it beside the fist. A cracking mass of electrical energy explodes into being, arcing between her outstretched palms. She flicks her massive wrist, and the sparking coils of pure power come writhing towards you. Before you can dodge, they swirl around you and encircle your body, imprisoning you in a living cage of energy. She throws back her head, and the floor shudders rhythmically beneath the weight of her laughter. You peer through the gaps in the swirling force field and see that her attendants are rushing towards you. We do have the dagger of Vashna. You unsheath the twisted spike of black steel and thrust it into the swirling coils of energy that are holding you prisoner. There is a terrific crack as the tip penetrates the energy wall, and with breathtaking suddenness it disappears. You look down at the dagger in your hand, but to your astonishment, it has disappeared. Erase the dagger. No! We've had that since, like, book 3 or whatever. At Shamath's command, her attendants draw wicked-looking, maybe book 4, slivers of steel from scabbards inside their robes, and with a cry of vengeance, they come rushing forwards to hack you down. Boo! Okay, we win the combat, we're barely scratched. Aching with fatigue and splattered with foul ichor that passes for blood in the bodies of Shamath's attendants, you step back from those that you have slain and defiantly stare at the towering demoness. Slowly the cavern begins to darken, and the towering body of the demoness shivers and changes into a new and totally repugnant form. She has taken on the guise of a huge crawling worm. Her slimy flanks are studded with a multitude of tiny tendrils, and her head is equipped with a sphincter-like maw which drips loathsome green saliva. She slithers closer, and in the half-light you catch sight of her ghastly face. It is like that of an infant, wholly black save for the eyes which are aglow with hellish red fire. The worm thing rears up, and as the head sweeps past your eyes a second time, you recognize the facial features. And a paralyzing blast of psychic shock rips through your mind. It is the face of your long-dead brother Jen. We have advanced screen. The sight of your dead brother's face leaves you dry-mouthed and shaking, but your mastery of psychic defenses protects you from further psychic shock. The face on the worm is changing. It no longer resembles your brother. It has taken on the haughty visage of the demoness Shamath. Ha! How puny and insignificant you mortals are. There can be no sport for me in the easy slaying of your kind. This is no challenge, therefore I shall devise one. I challenge you to a duel of intellect. The great worm thing retreats through the dais and the darkened wall of the cavern, and suddenly it is illuminated by 1,000 jets of flame which roar from jets set into the smooth glassy floor. Very well, let the combat begin. Attend with care to what I say. When I have finished, I shall ask you a question. While I am here to do Nar's bidding, how many loyal servants guard my throne of power? Shamath notes the look of concentration in your face, and she allows herself a sneering laugh at your expense. She is confident that you will not defeat her in this intellectual contest. She begins. I possess 2 dwellers of the abyss. My loyal servants are equal in number to the months in a magnum year, less the number of my dwellers of the abyss. When my loyal servants and the dwellers of the abyss are counted together, their total number was doubled when my Lieutenant of Night arrived. Lieutenants of Night, plural. Okay. But when my Lieutenants of Night arrived, the dwellers of the abyss had to leave. Exactly half of the remaining number also departed, for they were beholden to the dwellers. From the remainder, I picked a loyal servant to guard my throne of power. I chose them all except for one who was known to me as a traitor. I executed the traitor before I set my loyal servants to guard my throne. Answer my question. How many loyal servants guard my throne? Well, this all relies on something that I don't actually know. How many months are in a magnum and year? We're going to, for the moment, assume that that is 12. Which is perhaps a poor assumption, but okay. 2 dwellers, comma, loyal servants equals, we're assuming, 12 months of a year. But less the number of dwellers, so 12 minus 2, which is 10. When the loyal servants, when 10 and the dwellers, so 10 plus 2, which was 12 again, their total number was doubled when the lieutenants of night arrived. Night lieutenants also equals 12. But when my lieutenants of night arrived, the dwellers of the abyss had to leave. So we went up to 24, but then we minus 2 to go to 22. Exactly half of the remaining number departed. So that goes to 11. The remainder I picked a loyal servant to guard my throne of power. I chose everyone, except for one who was known as a traitor. So that goes down to 10. 10. I think you have 10, but again, I don't know how many months we have. Okay, we do have 12 months. Upon hearing you utter the correct solution to her riddle, she recoils in horror. You have beaten her challenge, and the humiliation she feels cuts her sharply as any sword. She begins to whimper. Then, quite suddenly, a geyser of flame shoots from the floor and engulfs her worm-like body. You watch with disbelief as the tendrilled flesh blackens and flakes away, leaving nothing but a coiled heap of glowing cinders. The blazing cavern walls grow dim, and shimmering waves of crimson light begin to sweep across the floor towards the crystal dais. Suddenly, she reappears in her female form at the base of the dais. In front of her booted legs, there stand a dozen powerful warriors. But there should only be 10 of them. We just established that there are only 10. Boo! Inconsistency. Armored and helmeted as if for war. But their stern faces have no eyes, and their mouths have no lips. Behind her, a score of new attendants emerge from the shadows, carrying large pieces of shiny black armor. She begins to strap this armor to her limbs, and by the sluggishness of her movements, you can tell that she was weakened by your earlier conflict. With a single word, she commands the warriors to attack you. They raise their short swords and come marching slowly forward. Their movements stiff and machine-like. Beyond the advancing line, you catch sight of the Death Staff lying near the base of the dais, and a bold plan springs to mind. If you could evade the oncoming automatons, you could reach the dais. Then you would be able to take it and enter the Shadow Gate. Inspired by your plan, you run towards the advancing line of automatons, taking care to keep a watch on the eye of the demoness Shamath. And your goal, the Death Staff. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have super invisibility, add 2. If you possess Pathmanship, add 1. If you possess Spirit Walking, add 1. For every Kai Mastery you've attained, also add 1. We barely make it to 6. Swiftly, you sidestep the oncoming wave of automatons and leave them hacking uselessly at the air with their swords. The demoness is putting on an armored breastplate of varnished black steel and is kneeling to allow her attendants to fasten the straps. They are clumsy and she is distracted, and does not yet see you approaching dangerously close to the dais and the Death Staff until it is too late. You grab at the staff's cold metallic haft, and instantly you feel the terrible power that is locked within its core. I do have this sword, but we leave this sword at home because I don't want to be tempted to use this sword, because it permanently reduces your health whenever you use it. You wrench the Death Staff from the dais and sag beneath its unnatural weight. The moment you raise it into the air, the demoness spins around to stare at you, sending her attendants flying in all directions. She screams with unholy anger, and the noise of her wrath lifts your body and sends you skidding across the floor. You fight to maintain your grip on the staff as the furious Shamath gets to her feet. She strides towards you, bolts of energy darting from her fingertips to rip open the ground, and as you stumble away towards the yawning black tunnel. The deafening shriek of her voice rings in your ears as you clutch the staff to your chest and leap headfirst into the oblivion of the Shadowgate. The screaming winds of the abyss rip and tear at you unmercifully. That sounds weird. Unmercifully. As you are sucked through the heart of the whirling black vortex. All the while you cling to the Death Star, although its chill touch is far colder than even the frigid gales of the void, and it drains you of your warmth like some evil vampire. Lose 5 health. Time passes and you sense flashing motes of light streaking past your closed eyes. And faint, far-away sounds come dimly to your ears through the howling wind. Then, as suddenly as it begins, the sensation of falling ceases, and you feel yourself lurching forwards into wet, rocky soil. Rain splatters your face, and when you open your eyes, you see that you've returned to Magnamund and to terrible danger. Kill him! It is the voice of Archdruid Kadak. You have emerged from the Shadowgate and lie on the ground between the great shimmering arch and Kadak's crystal dais. You've only just found your feet when the growing horde of vengeful acolytes close in on you, eager to fulfill their leader's wishes. Kill the horde. Next. Insta-kill by critical success. I'm not going to use the Death Staff, by the way. Win without using the Death Staff. The few acolytes who survive the fight count themselves lucky and flee for their lives. Fools! Must I do everything myself? Screams Kadak. With these words, he bangs the tip of his staff 3 times against the floor of the dais, and a gout of crackling energy arcs through the rain-laden air towards you. Instinctively, you raise the Death Star and catch the arcing bolt on its heft. There is a flash of sparks, and the crackling energy flickers and disappears. Kadak curses loudly and promises you that you will die. But for all his bravado, you sense that he is scared. He recognizes the Death Star for what it is and fears that in your hands it could lay waste to his meticulous plans. The aged druid looks to the stormy clouds and screams a command to the circling vertexi to help him finish you. The howling phantoms swarm down from the storm. They circle the great shimmering arch as a long, unbroken chain, and one by one peel away to dive at the place where you stand. Your instincts inform you that the Death Staff possesses the power to repel these psionic phantoms, if you have the courage to use it. You also sense that there will inevitably be a price to pay if you use a weapon forged by the King of all Darkness. Never! We will a second time resist temptation. You would rather trust in your own goodly powers than use a weapon forged of evil. Lashed by wind and rain, you steel yourself. If you have Assimilance, if you have Kai Screen, and if you have neither, sure. You draw on your Kai Mastery to conjure up a dense fog to surround you in the hopes that it will hamper the horde. However, they are psychic creatures, and so don't care. Your discipline disrupts the homing process somewhat, but there are still many of them who sense accurately where you are. When they attack, you're forced to defend yourself vigorously. Psychic, go. Okay, they do marginal damage to us. You have destroyed the power of the Vortexi Horde. They shrink and fade, and their faint wispy remains are whipped up and dispersed by the winds of the raging storm. For a few moments there is a break in the roiling clouds, and a few rays of sunlight burst through to bathe you in a warm yellow glow. This warmth greatly invigorates your mind and body. Restore 6 health. Gradually, the clouds knit together and shut out the sun. Once again, you are plunged into the teeth of the storm. You hear a low scream carried on the wind and turn to see Kadak, blazing with anger, striding down from the dais, wielding his staff like a fiery lance. He approaches to within 20 paces and bangs the butt down twice upon the rain-drenched earth. On the second strike, an umbrella of spectral lights explodes overhead and falls to earth to encompass you both. Nothing can stop the arrival of Shamath, screams Kadak. You have only delayed her, that is all. You have not stopped her. Soon she will set foot upon the soil of Magnamund, and Lord Vashna will have his revenge. You scan the flickering walls of this rainbow-coloured prison for light, searching for a chink in its armour, through which you may escape. "You will not escape," shouts Kadak, as if reading your mind. "Not while I am alive." I have the summer sword. You draw the summer sword and point it accusingly at him, expecting him to wither in the face of its goodly light, but the blade does not glow as radiantly as before. It is as if its powers are being subdued by Kadak's spectral prison. With loathing in your heart, you advance upon your enemy. He weaves his hands before his face, and the image fades. He is using a spell of invisibility, but it does not keep him entirely hidden. You can see the outline of his staff and his body flickering as he moves against the background wall of the light. He has a lot of combat skill, but he doesn't actually have very much health. So he again does some modest damage, but we win. As you strike your killing blow, Kadak shudders and crashes to the ground, clutching his staff tightly to his chest. He finds just enough strength to utter a dying curse, where, before your disbelieving eyes, his body slowly disintegrates. The skin is quickly crisscrossed by thousands of wrinkles, and the drying flesh falls from his skull, leaving it bare-boned and with a tattered layer of leathery skin stretched over it. In the next instant, his body collapses into naked bone. His staff breaks into chalky chunks, and finally, bone and staff blacken and fall to dust. The umbrella of light quickly fades to leave you standing in a torrential rainstorm close to the base of the crystal dais. Through the downpour, you can see the acolytes are slowly returning. They are anxious for the safety of their leader and hungry for the successful summoning of their banished lord. Despite the chill, you tighten your grip on the icy cold death staff and climb the tiers to the top of the dais. You sense the crystal dais commands the opening and closing of the shadow gate, and you know you must try and close the gate before Shamath appears. In frustration, you raise the death staff and bring it crashing down upon the floor of the upper tier, but it does little damage. It could take forever to destroy the dais this way. Then a wave of electrical energy crackles around the rim of the great arch, and your blood runs cold, for you know that in a dim and distant cavern upon the plane of darkness, the demoness Shamath has just stepped into the gate. Her journey has begun. Galvanized into action by the fear of what will happen should she return, you cast your eyes and senses across the symbols engraved upon the surface of the uppermost tier of the dais. Then, in a sudden flash of inspiration, you realize the symbols themselves are the key to the activation of the Shadow Gate. You study the symbols and determine that the sequence must be completed in order for you to be able to close it. Study the following grid of numbers carefully. When you think you know the answer, do this. 64385. 624 453 3 question mark 9 848 548. I'm not seeing an obvious pattern. I mean, these two add up to that one, but that isn't true for this column. I suppose the difference of these two is that. The difference of... No, the difference of these two is not that. Maybe it's to do with how much they add up to? Yeah, everything adds up to 12? Well, at least these two add up to 12. This one adds up to 12, but that would mean the answer is 0. Which doesn't make sense, because there's never a section 0. So that one adds up to 21. This one adds up to 20. Maybe it's adding them up this way, not vertically. 10, 13, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 4, 7, 16, 24, 32, 32, what was the top one? 10, 13, 21, 26. So maybe it goes up by 3 per thing, so the next one is supposed to be 29. Uh, 29, but minus 9 plus 4, 13, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I think the missing number is perhaps 9? No, and we're forced to go the other way. Or we could try again. Your first attempt at deciphering the secret was not successful. A new sequence of numbers materializes. The sequence appears harder. You will now need to bring to bear all your skill and intelligence to break the code. Study it carefully. Okay. Adding them up vertically. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know what? I'm even willing to use calculator for that. So 23, 86, 141, 250. Next. 41, 86, 68, 192. 301. That doesn't feel like a pattern, but we'll keep going. We don't know the next one. X. 88. 129, 216, 44, 433. And 31, 135, 337. 493. Then take the difference of these consecutive numbers, which is 51, unknown, unknown, and 493 minus 433, which is 60. It could be plus 4 and plus 5. So what, I maybe want it to be 54 and... No, that doesn't work either. What if we do them horizontally then? If we instead look at them horizontally, it is 23, 41, 55, 88, 31, 238. It is 86, 68. Well, we can't tell because it's... So X and 141, 192, 220, 216, 337. That is... Yeah, no obvious pattern. So the first set add up this way to 236, 238. This set add up to 1,260. It's not obvious how that's a progression. Is there progression between the numbers left to right? So 41 take 23 is 60... No, take. Stupid calculator. 41 take 23, 18. And then the next one is 14. And then 88 minus 55 is 33. And then it's going to be some big minus number, which doesn't really make sense either. What else could it be? The frequency of the digits? No, I don't see... Like, I was thinking maybe the digits in one row then somehow correspond to the digits in the next. This one is purely ascending, but the other two both have descending ones. Well, enjoy Remy. I hope you have a lovely time of it. And yep, it's always easy to be watching and think, oh, that looks easy. And then you've actually got to do it for yourself. And you find out that it is not so. I have no idea. Maybe it's sort of like that plus that is that. That might work. So... what was I saying? I'm saying 23 plus 41. The difference is 4. Like, those two together are 4 off of that one. Now, if I do these two together, is it 4 off of that? No. It is 14 off of that. Ooh, it looks like it might be this plus this goes down and then like plus 14 plus 1 based on the column. So 23 plus 41 is 64 plus 4. But then there's no sense in the first entry in each row. How is the first entry in that row generated in that case? Right, this would need to be... These two... Well, this one would need to be blank for it to be like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine they'd make you do multiplication. That would be too big. They would only make you be doing addition and subtraction. At most. What about this minus the ones above it? So the first column would be 32 by that rule. Then the next one is 83. It doesn't feel like a pattern. And then unknown, and then... No, come on, calculator. Be proper. Minus 88. No, that doesn't... That's not a sensible pattern either. No, I don't get it. You insta-die. Wow. Suddenly, a sparkling sheet of energy shimmers beneath the great arc, and you catch sight of the huge booted foot stepping through it. You tremble at the thought of what will happen next, for you recognize only too well to whom the foot belongs. With mounting horror, you watch as the demoness, Shamath, enters from the Shadow Gate in her entirety. Here, on Magnemon, she is 5 times greater in size and power than in her own domain. She is hungry to exercise that terrible power. She stoops down and plucks the Death Star from you as if she was removing a tiny splinter of wood from a lonely insect. Then she points a tree-sized finger at the ground before the dais, and a huge hole appears. A raging whirlwind arises from the abyss, a swirling vortex which quickly builds in power until it is sucking everything into its spinning black core. Screaming acolytes tumble past and disappear into its maw as you desperately hang on to the dais to stop yourself from being sucked to your death. But your resistance is futile. With a callous flick of her wrist, the demoness Shagath consigns you to your doom. Your life and your quest end here. That is utter bullshit. That there is a just... Can you see a pattern here? No. I don't. You haven't explained what I'm meant to be looking for. Okay, then let's give you a hardified version of it. Do you see the pattern now? No. Insta-dead. That is some powerful ass. Oh, well, we know what we wanted. We wanted... Yes, we want that one. Yes, we want that one. There is no saving, Remy. We get rid of the whistle, we get rid of the ball of string. Get rid of the ball of wine. Bowstring. Bottle. Don't need a silver bowl. Go across to our money. I don't need 2 of these amulets. We'll get told off if I have them. Deposit a whole bunch of our money. I understand. We will take healing potion, rope, meal. Boop. It is brutal, and it is one of the... I would probably say it is the worst thing about these game, like this book series, is that there are a bunch of just insta-death, you have lost. Go back to the very start. If it's you making an obviously stupid decision, I don't mind it so much, but when it's either the RNG ones or something like that, where they don't actually explain what the puzzle is, then it's a bit arse. Anyway, we try and get our way back to the ending again and see if we can find a puzzle solution. We asked him for money, we asked him for directions, he demanded us money, we give him the money, he takes us... Oh, this guides us to here. We offered him a backpack item. He steals one of our ropes. The ninja comes. We chase the ninja. We shoot the ninja. We shoot the ninja. We shoot the ninja well. We continue following him. We roll somewhat well, not as well as before. We lose some health. You continue tracking him. We did the mine shaft. The mine shaft led to a doggo, which then led to the ghosty things. He gives us the amulet. I can eat a meal. We cannot control the animal. We have rolled poorly this time. Oh no, this is the same. The same thing, we're attacked by the ghost things. We shield them out. We attack them back. We fight them. We win. Use our hunting this time. We roll well. We are not ambushed. We shoot them. They do modest damage to us. They have some objects that we might want. Meal, arrow, spyglass, pipe, money, blanket. You're carrying too much money. Meal, done. Continue. I think we skipped it? I think we did the hut. Yes, we crossed the river on the little pull dolly. We have the summer sword. We approached them in the morning. Another meal that I don't need. More money that we don't need. Okay, we find the magic pirates trying to free their brothers. Shoot her! We get aboard the boat. Well, we start acting as if we're one of the baddies. We wander up the hill. We don't wander away. We've already got enough stuff. We don't need the weapons hut. We take damage from the evil necromantic altar. We're still really healthy. The rain sounds are a good lullaby. They are. They're lovely. I have been to Karg and Moguruith. We do have the summer sword. We kill the dragons. We talk to the little girl. Who is presumably some sort of embodiment of the goddess Ashia. Now I'm going to say we don't use up our dagger of Vashna here. I will use the summer sword, though. High screen. She challenges us to this intellect thing. She had 10. See, the linear algebra problem, trivial. We got that instantly. But the puzzle that doesn't actually explain what it wants you to do, aside from find the missing number, well, I had a reason for why I thought the missing number was what it was. Just apparently not the right reason. We don't use the Death Staff. We don't use the Death Staff. Does the puzzle that contains all puzzles contain itself? Yes, set theory says set of all sets includes set. We win combat. Success. We destroy the essentially lightning elemental things. We do have the summer sword. He uses his anti-summer sword bubble. We fight him. He gets us down to about half health and we win. Oh. I remember watching a little educational video thing about set theory on that topic. And about it being one of the fundamental arguments between two sorts of schools of set theory about... One of them is that it's a irreconcilable paradox, and the other school of thought just says, no, we define it to not be such. Okay, we've defeated him. We step up to the DS, and we get the easy version of whatever this is supposed to be. Okay. Let's read the instructions extra special carefully. You study the symbols and determine that a sequence must be completed in order for you to be able to close the shadow gate. Study the following grid carefully. When you think you know the missing number, turn to the entry that bears the same number. Now, we said adding them up vertically gives you, in order, 12, 12, X, because we don't know what it is, 20, and it was 24, wasn't it? No, 22. So 12, 12, X, 20, 22. That's not an obvious pattern. 0. Like, the difference between those is then 0, comma, X, comma, well, let's call it Y, actually. Y, Z, 2. And that would mean Y and Z need to be really big numbers, which mean that sequence isn't, like, a sensible, intuitive sequence. So vertically doesn't make sense. Horizontally. 10, 13, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Is that correct? 6 plus 4 plus 3 plus 8 plus 5. Yes, 26. 2 plus 5 plus X plus 4 plus 9. 20 plus X. And 4 plus 3 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8. Oops. It's not the calculator, that's Notepad. 4 plus 3 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8. 32. So horizontally, you could say they maybe go up by 3, that this set adds up to 26, then the next set adds up to 29, and then the next set adds up to 32. That might be reasonable. Double check that 6 plus 4 plus 3 plus 8 plus 5, 26. I'm saying the magic answer is 9, which is then 2 plus 5 plus 9 plus 4 plus 9. 29. And 4 plus 3 plus 9 plus 8 plus 8. 9 is one reasonable answer based on horizontally. No. This time the sequence appears to be harder. Yeah. Nah. Well, that's pissed me off. I don't care. We're just going to... So what is it? Legacy of Vashna. Number puzzle. What is it supposedly? Because it is... Yoink. The sum of the first 3 numbers in each row is equal to the sum of the last 2 numbers in the row. Supposedly. The sum of the first 3 numbers in each row is equal to the sum of the last 2 numbers. So what it's saying, if we add 23, 41, 55, is supposedly equal, that's 119, to 88 plus 31. That is true. Uh, 86 plus 60. Oh. 86 plus 68 is 154. Plus x equals 129 plus... Oh. Not calculator. 129 plus 135. 264. Subtract 154 from each side. 100 equals x. Or 110. 110. All of the other times that we've had puzzles like this, it has just been rows and columns. It has never been subsections of rows and columns compared to other subsections of rows and columns. The instant you correctly complete the second sequence, a deep hum resonates from inside the upper tier. Oh, I get 2 deaths though. One from the first time it killed me, and one for looking up the silly answer, because it's a ridiculous thing. From inside the upper tier, and slowly it opens to reveal a hexagonal crystal plinth with a circular hole in its center. Your Kai senses inform you that by inserting the tip of the Death Staff into the hole, you'll cause the Shadow Gate beneath the Great Arc to close. Trembling with fear and exhilaration, you raise the Death Staff above your head and bring it down with one mighty thrust, driving it deep into the hole. A shudder runs through the dais, and fingers of green electrical fire shoot from the tip of the Death Staff into the ground below. There is a moment of dreadful silence, when even the storm and the rain abate. Then the air shakes with a terrific implosion as a great shimmering arch collapses inwards and disintegrates. Sparkling sheets of energy buckle and fuse as segments of the arch fall to the ground, crushing everything beneath rock and man. For an instant, you catch a glimpse of a huge booted foot stepping through a silvery sheet of energy, and you tremble at the thought of what will happen next, for you recognize only too well to whom the foot belongs. But in the very next instant, the keystone of the arch falls away, and with a grating cry of tortured rock, the whole edifice comes crashing to the ground. Then, as if from nowhere, a raging whirlwind arises in midair. At the center of where the arch stood, a whirling vortex begins to build in power until it is sucking everything into its spinning black core. Screaming acolytes tumble past and disappear into the maw as you desperately hang on to the Dias to stop yourself from being sucked to your doom. Pick a number from the random number table. Boom. If your health is above set numbers, add more. If you have magic, add more. And if you have a high enough rank, add even more. Suddenly, the raging winds cease and you fall unconscious to the floor of the Dias. When you awaken, you discover that you are entirely alone. The collapse of the Shadow Gate and the whirlwind from which have followed have consumed everything except yourself and the Crystal Dias. There are no acolytes, no trace of the Grand Archway, no Death Staff, not even the storm itself remains. Virtually all trace of Kadak's evil plan has been wiped from the surface of your world. Congratulations, Grand Master Lone Wolf. You have triumphed. You have defeated the plan to resurrect Vashta and saved Magnamund from its rule of terror. But the fight against evil is not yet over. The collapsing Shadowgate destroyed everything it consumed. Everything except one exception. And that exception returns to haunt you in the next Grand Master adventure entitled The Death Lord of Ixia. Clap, 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 clap. Mostly pretty good, but that ridiculous number puzzle at the end, it should be more like the number puzzle with the demon, where if you get it wrong, the bad guy is just stronger. Or it should give you enough examples that you can rule out the other options. Like my add them up horizontally, and they have a set difference between each, or a uniform difference between each row. Guess, which proves to be wrong. If there were more rows, then I could disprove that guess and try and work out what the true rule is. But you aren't really given enough... You aren't given enough rows/columns to be able to exclude all the reasonable guesses that you might make as to what the rule is. And the fact that getting it wrong just says insta-die, start the whole book over is really bad. Really bad as a final puzzle. Yeah. Well, otherwise, a nice book. Otherwise, this was a good one. Ooh, join us next week for more Lone Wolf Wednesday with the Death Lord of Ixia.